You're here, I'm queer, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I will be making Monica Rambeau, the original female Captain Marvel. If you are only familiar with the MCU stories, then that is understandable. But in the comics, Monica Rambeau was the original Captain Marvel and not Carol Danvers. Carol's original title was actually Miss Marvel, which is now owned by Kamala Khan. This is why it confused me when the MCU introduced her as Captain Marvel, since I knew her as Miss Marvel through the cartoons and also the video games. Long story short, there's a lot of people with the Marvel mantle that keeps being passed around, so it can get really confusing. I wanted to make Monica Rambeau because she's officially in the MCU, and I really loved her in WandaVision. Seeing her powers grow and mutate got me excited, since her powers are so vast when used correctly. It also piques my curiosity of what title they're going to give her in the MCU, since she has a lot. Will they go with the original title of Captain Marvel, Photon maybe, Pulsar, Spectrum, Lady of Light, Monica Marvel, Sun Goddess, or maybe all of them? Why not? My version of Monica is an amalgamation of her original debuted look from the comics as Captain Marvel and the aesthetics of the MCU's Captain Marvel. The MCU definitely has a style that they're sticking to when it comes to translating comic looks into the movie screen. We see that a lot with Scarlet Witch and the Vision and even Hawkeye. They're really trying to put a spin of realism when designing the characters' uniforms, like they would literally do a 180 with certain characters, but also have a guy in a spider suit and an American flag running around the city. So, I guess. I imagine Monica rocking something like this as her contemporary look. It retains the classic elements of her comic book look alongside the original color story of black and white. The silhouette is more modern and stylized to fit the MCU aesthetics, and of course, I had to give her her cape back. This will definitely add the classic Captain Marvel look to her armor style uniform. I can't wait to show you guys the process, so let's get started. So the star of the show for this video is going to be this Barbie fashionista. I believe she is the 156th one, if we're trying to be technical, and she has the basic fashionista body. I believe this is just a regular or a tall one, I'm not entirely sure, and she has the basic 5 points of articulation, as you can see. Her head sculpt is really beautiful, and I thought it would be perfect for a Monica Rambeau repaint. I'm not familiar with the official head sculpt for this Barbie. It could be a new one or it could be an old one. However, the factory paint of it is kind of misleading for the most part at all times. So let's go ahead and start. Let's remove her head so we can work on her body. We will be doing some major kind of customizing with her body. So because the pose of this doll is quite just straight, it looks like she was shook, I'm gonna go ahead and cut up her elbows and also her wrist. I'm gonna try and pose this to be a little bit more natural. I want to give her a traditional superhero pose, like a superhero stance. And overall, I just kind of want to reference her comic book cover pose when she debuted. And I'm not cutting up her legs because I think I can just kind of work with that. So this is what I have. As you can see, I've cut up all of her limbs and we're gonna put it back together. I'm gonna use a hand drill over here. We're gonna drill some holes and we will wire it all together. I definitely recommend a stronger wire for this one, although maybe any wire can work. Maybe you can just double it up or twist it or something. But let's just go ahead and put that in the limbs, and that will be the bridge for her entire arm. So as you can see over here, everything is connected with the wire temporarily. If you want to do this for your dolls, like for your basic non-articulated fashionista dolls, this will work temporarily, like I said, and it doesn't really bend all the way unless you make the wire inside a little longer. That means you have to drill a lot longer. I don't recommend gluing it at this point if you want to keep rotating and playing with it, because the wire over time can actually break, and so you're gonna have wire stuck inside the doll's arm. So yeah, definitely a temporary fix. It can create subtle poses, you know, it's better than having no bending of the arm, definitely. So, but yeah. For Monica Rambeau, however, it's going to be a static superhero pose. So I am taking my plastic bonder over here, 2 parts, and we're going to go ahead and mix that. This is a plastic glue, fairly industrial, and we're just going to go ahead and fill in those parts. As you can see over here, the wiring and the posing, I have to make sure I like it because it will be a static doll. I will be sculpting on top of it. The plastic glue roughly takes 15 to 20 minutes to completely cure, but I give it a day just to be safe, and I also glued her hips over here. As you can see, she's kind of tilted at one end. I feel like that creates a little bit more of a natural pose, and so now she is ready to meet the epoxy clay. And yes, I definitely hate these sensor tapes, but it's, you know, it is what it is, I guess. So the reason why I'm sculpting her armor or her entire look is because it is going to be a little bit difficult to kind of translate it through real textiles, through fabric, what I had intended in the sketch. And so I'm like, I think the only way to really get the effect is to sculpt it, to create those details through clay. So literally she is head to toe covered in clay, which is kind of cool. And I'm creating a textile with sandpaper. As you can see over here, I am dabbing sandpaper. I want this to look like crushed armor. It's kind of weird because it's also supposed to look like fabric, but it's also supposed to have a really armory type of effect to it, which I love. I love how this specific grit of sandpaper is helping me get the look. And yeah. So if you're wondering, everything that I am touching with the sandpaper is going to be color black or some sort of black, and those are going to be kind of like the contrast for her platinum armor on top. So I really had this idea of kind of highlighting her armor, her white armor with black outlines, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I'm really excited to show you guys everything. As you can see, I'm just covering this up with all of the sandpaper, but not entirely. And after we have all of the clay, all of the sandpaper textile clay kind of set, as you can see, it creates a beautiful texture over here. It definitely is so organic. I'm not sure if it's working with the whole metal but also fabric vibes, you know. Yeah, I like it. So now I'm taking my watercolor pencil to sketch out the armor itself, the shapes of the armor. And by the way, this is a mistake, so please do not do this with watercolor pencil. When I was sculpting the actual clay with my wet clay tools, the watercolor pencil was bleeding out and it was getting messy. So like I said, don't do this with watercolor pencil. Do it with lead pencil, do it with pen. Look over here. You can see the clay changing color because I was picking up, look at that, oh my god. I was picking up the color of the watercolor pencil. So again, don't do that. That was my mistake. So the vision I kind of had for her armor is that the platinum armor look is kind of floating on her body. That's why nothing is really connected. As you can see over here, there are spaces in between the armors. I want them to be separated and they're just kind of merged and glued onto her body, which is literal because we are gluing it through the clay. But after I put the paint and everything, in the end, you guys will see I was trying to go for like a floating effect for her armor. So I didn't really have an original plan for the back. I usually don't when I'm sketching something. And so for this one, I was like, let's just make it up. And I just mirrored whatever I had going on for the front. And I thought that made a lot of sense as an armor. Usually armors are like there's symmetry and they're always kind of equal and they mirror each other front and back, side to side. So I thought that made a lot of sense. Honestly, I could have skipped this part because she will be given a cape. You know, the original Captain Marvel had a beautiful cape, and so I have to bring that back. You guys know my obsession with capes. And that is when Warbla comes in. That is Warbla, for those who are always asking. And to activate the Warbla, you use a heat gun to it, and that will soften it, it will make it malleable, and that will be the base for our cape. As you can see over here, I'm just kind of bending it, and I will be gluing it with the plastic bonder. And now let's go ahead and build upon her neck piece, and we're going to marry the clay to the Warbler part in the back. And I love this design so much. I gave it to Scarlet Witch. You know, I just love the V look in front of armors. For some freaking reason, I don't know, it's very Fire Nation from Avatar, it's very sci-fi-y, and I just really, really love it. Yes. I can't wait to see what look they're going to give Monica officially. I do feel like it's going to be a similar look to a Kree uniform, kind of like Carol Danvers, but recolored. They'll still be really, really cool, but I hope they redesigned it a bit to have more individuality. And now let's go ahead and work on her boots. And again, the boots is kind of like a floating effect. They're not really connected. They don't really make sense. So yeah, that's great. I can only imagine this as a cosplay. I feel like everything will need to be sewed onto the tights or something, or the bodysuit. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. That, you know, that's realistic. But yeah. So as always, I have such an affinity for thigh-high boots. If you guys didn't know, the original Captain Marvel design and most of Photon, Spectrum, and Pulsar they're either wearing really low boots, like calf length boots, and I definitely prefer a thigh high boots. I don't know why, maybe because I can't wear them, so I'm like, I'm giving my dolls the things that I can't wear, the things that I can't rock. But yeah, I just feel like it elevates it a little bit more, it makes it a lot more contemporary, and I like it. I feel like it really ties in the overall look. And for her gauntlets, it's kind of the same exact story as her boots. It's gonna have a floating effect. It's gonna be divided in the middle over here. So it looks like, how the heck is it holding up? What is it protecting? We don't really know. It's protecting the sides, not really the front. But I really think it's really cool. We're going back to the boots. Now that the thigh area is completely cured, I sketched out this shape over here for her shoes. As you can see, it is a little bit longer. The Barbie feet is quite small in terms of scaling, and so I'm like, I need this to look a little bigger for the boots. So I'm gonna go ahead and trace that onto Warbler. And same thing, you know, we're gonna cut it, we're gonna make two of them. Of course, we need a pair, and we're going to activate it with a heat gun. And now we can go ahead and mold it to the soles of her feet. We can shape it, as you can see. And after you shape it, it's going to cool down, and that's when you glue it onto the feet. You can use super glue, or you can also use the plastic bonder. Now this one is going to be her heels. I cut out this diamond shape over here. We are going to give her a heelless, futuristic look. And Russell Dauterman has inspired me to embrace the heelless look once more when he gave it to Storm for the Hellfire Gala design. And you guys know I gave it to Sasha for my Bratz custom. I love the heelless look all the time, but this specific shape of heelless look is something I didn't have when it was popping off in 2011, 2012. The one I have is very horse-like. It was very like on the verge of becoming My Little Pony looking, you know what I mean? But this one was always more futuristic. And for her kneecap, for the knee armor, I wanted to have a diamond effect. And so over here, I just cut one out of Warbler, and I'm sculpting one out of epoxy clay. And this is just kind of really cool. I always like a modern and sharp type of armory when it comes to like superhero looks. And as you can see, it's so cool. And like, wow, I can literally make like a diamond epoxy like jewelry with this, like resin or something. Now let's go ahead and make a mold out of it because we need two of them and I need it to be symmetrical and uniform. So let's take my easy mold silicone putty over here and we're gonna mix the purple and white together equal parts like our epoxy sculpt. And yeah, let's just go ahead and blend that. Make sure to wear a glove. And now I'm just putting it in a paint palette over here. I thought it was kind of perfect for the shape and the size. And then we press on our diamond in there. And I think this cures in 20 to 30 minutes, so not too bad. Now let's unmold it, and as you can see, we have a perfect replicator. So now we are taking again an epoxy sculpt, and I did wet the inside of the diamond first so that it releases a little bit more easily. And I'm just going to go ahead and press that onto her knee, and this will transfer it effortlessly. And now let's blend it in. And now I can continue to work on the calf part of her boots. As you can see, the boots is kind of cut in 3 parts when I was making it, actually 4 because of the actual shoe part, because you kind of have to wait in between for the clay to really cure, because you have to hold one leg or the other, you know what I mean? So I had to wait for the thigh to cure, and then I have to wait for the shoes to cure, and then I have to wait for the knees to cure, and all that. So it's quite difficult to do the entire boot in one sitting, especially with all of the detailing and sculpting that I'm making. So for the star design for her chest and also the back, I have 2 options. They're both necklaces. I have this one I got from Amazon. It is a North Star over here. This one has 8 points, which is really cool. And then I have a Starburst, and this one has 16 points. And actually, this one looks a lot closer. I mean, this is literally her original costume. This is the star she had in the original Captain Marvel comics. So yeah, we'll see. I'll make a mold out of both of them though, and then we will go from there. I guess my camera was not recording, but I used resin. I poured resin for the star part, as you can see over here. So it is beautifully recreated in resin. So here are the 2 stars, and I definitely prefer the 16 points, I think, just because it is closer to, like I said, the original comic books of Captain Marvel. So we're going with that one, and I made another one to go to the back of her costume. Why not? And now we are finally done with all of the sculpting details. Over here, bad news, as you can see, it cracked. I was so confident that she can stand on her own, which she can, but then she fell, and so the warbler bent, and so it cracked the clay. I tried to fix it, and I think I did. So here is more of a view of her overall armor. As you can see, really cool. Oh my gosh, the color pencil though is bleeding, but the shoes are so awesome, and I really like the fact that she can actually stand on her own, although I'm not doing it anymore because, oh my god, her warbler cracking was like a nightmare. And now let's go ahead and paint everything. I'm priming the actual armor part with white matte acrylic paint. Oh, actually, I guess I'm priming everything. I guess I'm priming everything with white, and then we'll go back into it with the actual colors. Overall, I think when I was priming everything with white, it took me maybe 3 to 4 layers because my white acrylic paint was just really thin. And then for the black acrylic paint, it took me one layer, of course, which is really cool. And yeah, I have to fix some things here and there overall, but it's so dynamic looking at it. After that, let's go ahead and bring in the stars. And I'm going to be showing you guys 2 techniques. This one is actually a mistake, so I thought, why not compare the 2? I mixed in Mod Podge with glitter, and this one is Mod Podge, and then I add the glitter. So the left side is glitter mixed in with the glue, and then the other one is glue first and then glitter after. And look at it when it's dried. Her left leg is definitely easy to do. However, you really don't see the glitter, you see just literal texture. And then the right side is definitely a lot more messier and a lot more time consuming. However, the glitter payoff is definitely magical. I mean, she literally has the stars in her armor, and that's what I was going for. I wanted her armor to look like it's floating on top of stars, and you guys, well, you guys probably don't know, but I don't really like working with glitter because it's so messy, it gets everywhere, and literally 75% of her armor is pure glitter, which is just pure magic as well. Also, side note, me doing the clay with the sandpaper technique, and then me doing this glitter on top of it, it kind of definitely voided the technique, and I didn't really have to do that. However, me adding the glitter was a last minute choice that I decided to do, and I'm like, that might be cool. So yeah, you can skip that. If you want to recreate this, you can skip the sandpaper technique. I thought I'd show it because it's a cool textile effect. And now we're done with the glitter part, which was, it's not a well, it's a mistake in terms of me doing it now before I actually add the paint to the armor, because there's gonna be more mistakes. So I'll go back with the glitter later. So now let's go ahead and actually paint the armor, the white armor. And for this one, I really wanted a platinum look. Like, I didn't want it to be silver, I didn't want it to be white, I wanted it to be platinum. I wanted the mixture of both, and I tried to do that, and I hope I got that effect correctly. So for the black part, the glitter effect that I'm trying to add, I imagined this, if it was in the movie, to be like a special effects, and I want it to look like it's space, kind of like Paimon's cape from Genshin Impact. I'm dry brushing the armor with gunmetal silver, however, just to give it some age a little bit, just to give it some dimension, but then I'll go over it again with the same platinum paint on top, and we'll create kind of like a layer, like a film of paint on top of that, and I think that would be a cool sandwich of effects. And then I'm just adding some nail charms here and there. As you can see, unfortunately, they're in gold, so I have to, repaint it. A star over here for her shoulders, because I thought that would be kind of cool. Again, I'm gonna prime it with white first, so that we have a clear base, and then I'll go back in with black. For the most part, whatever character or title Monica Rambeau has, either it's Captain Marvel, Pulsar, Photon, all of that, the star in the center remains to be black or half black, and so I chose to actually give it a matte black. I thought that would be really, really cool to have as a contrast with the really metallic armor that she has, and also the glitter stars that she has underneath the armor. I thought that would be a cool contrast. And after that, we are pretty much done with Monica Rambeau's costume. Again, this is my version if she was Captain Marvel again in the MCU universe, and this is so cool. I really love the stars, the glitter. It's actually one of my favorite parts, even though it is a double-edged sword because it's so messy. Now let's go ahead and work on her face. Again, like I said, this is such a beautiful base. The sculpting on this doll is immaculate, and I really can't wait to work on her face. The issue is the hairline over here. It's interesting. Unfortunately, they took some shortcuts when they were rerouting this, and as you can see, it really does not frame her face that well. I thought of taking hair from the top of her head maybe and rerouting it, but I really didn't want to touch her hair because it might kind of disrupt the shape or even the curl pattern of it. So yeah, we're gonna make it work though. And first, let's go ahead and remove her face. And as you can see, we're struggling. She has the really kind of pixelated face paint, the factory paint, which means it's hard to remove with just pure acetone. Usually acetone is a breeze, but for this one I had to take my dental / sculpting tools and I had to scrape off the factory paint while also putting acetone on top of it and stuff like that. So they really, they really know the target audience for these dolls. They know the audience, and it's not collectors. Of course, before drawing with watercolor pencils, I sprayed her face with Mr. Super Clear 2 coats as a primer. And as you can see over here, her mold is just so beautiful and so unique. And it got me really excited to work on her face. Like always, I'm sketching out the features I want first with similar color pencils, a little lighter brown or more reddish brown, just so that it's easier to erase when mistakes are made. You don't really want to go in with deeper colors at first when you're sketching out, because when you make mistakes, the colors usually will be stained at the doll. So that's why Mr. Super Clear is also there to prevent staining the doll's head. So just make sure you're working with lighter colors first, and then you go in and build it and make it deeper. Now for her hair, I'm going to give her some edges. I'm going to give her some beautiful baby hair over here to frame her face. I feel like this will be perfect for her. It kind of gave us a canvas, to give her some baby hair. I definitely had Teyana Paris's picture up the entire time since I was referencing her makeup style, her eyebrows. I tried to reference her eye shape. I always say that I'm not proficient at realism, so sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But of course, the references are still going to be the comic book, Captain Marvel, and also the MCU, Monica Rambeau. So it's an amalgamation of beautiful worlds, beautiful universes. Both are canon, okay? And I'm excited for you guys to kind of see the overall package. For her literal makeup, I went for a neutral. Here we go again, neutral. No, but it is. Teyana Paris as Monica Rambeau in the show had very neutral makeup. Sometimes it's just a little bit smoky. I mean, she had her decades makeup when, in the 70s, she had a literal blue eyeshadow. However, I didn't really want to reference a decade of vintage makeup for this one. I wanted it to be contemporary, and I think for her, it would be just neutral eye, just a little bit smoky and highlighted here and there. So yeah. Definitely warm though, so it's a complete opposite of the color story of her armor, because her face is just really warm, so it's kind of a cool juxtaposition. I'm giving her a contour for her jawline and also her cheekbones, just because this doll's face is just a little bit more rounder than Teyana Paris, and so I just kind of wanted to reference that bone structure a little bit with contouring, and I think it kind of works out. I'm also highlighting here, so that's really cool that it takes it in. And then we are adding more shadows to the smoky eye, because why not? So I wanted to share a theory for the upcoming Captain Marvel 2, just based on what happened in the comics and other fan theories I've binge watched. I'm guessing that there is going to be a big threat that Carol Danvers can't defeat by herself, and that's why they recruited Monica Rambeau. But there is another threat, a smaller threat, that is Mystique and Rogue. They will all fight, and Rogue will steal Carol Danvers' powers completely, like in the comics and cartoons, which opens up the X-Men universe, you know, like to be continued type of thing. And Carol passes the Marvel mantle, the title, the Captain Marvel title, to the OG Monica Rambeau, and Monica saves the day by defeating the original threat. Again, just fan theorizing, but I thought that was kind of a cool intro to the X-Men universe, and also a good way to give Monica her original title back. If you guys have any theories, please comment them below. I'd love to read them. And now to bring in the stars on her face, I'm using gold resin metallic pigment powders over here as highlighter. And yes, you want to layer this with Mr. Super Clear as well. And it looks really, really good. It literally looks like stars and real life doll scale highlighter. And I'm obsessed. If not Captain Marvel, what name do you guys think the MCU will give Monica? I'm guessing Photon because of her mother, but her other titles are also really cool too. And of course, it's time to add in the lashes with Elmer's Glue All, and I'm using individual fake human lashes, literally from the dollar store, or any beauty supply store you guys can get it. And now let's go ahead and shape her hair. Let's do some final touches. As you can see, the baby hair definitely blends in the hair itself a little bit better, and it frames her face, which is really, really cool, and I'm excited. To finish it off, let's go ahead and gloss up her lips. And now we're pretty much done with Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, Photon, Pulsar, Daystar, Scepter, Lady of Light, Monica Marvel, Sun Goddess, and Spectrum. We literally made so many characters in one. No, but Monica Rambeau as Captain Marvel is so great. I mean, this is so cool. I love it so much. And here is a before and after. And of course, to finish it, oh my god, I keep saying to finish it off, but yes, to finish it off, I sewed her this beautiful split cape. As you can see, it is split down the middle. It is definitely influenced by her original cape, although it is not the rounded kind of disco type of cape. This one is just a straight cape split in the middle. I thought that was a beautiful way to kind of modernize and contemporize the cape that she had in the original comic book, and I'm obsessed with this specific fabric I got from a local store because it's textured, it's soft, and it has silver thread in it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like perfect for Monica. Yes, and I can't wait for you guys to see it blowing in the wind. And now we're done.